Welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
Gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Why, hey there, and welcome to episode 129 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Thank you, as always, for lending me your ears today. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you making me one of them. I am, of course, the host, Jen Donovan. If you are new to this podcast, then super welcome to you. And if you're a return listener, well, hey, welcome back, and thank you for joining me for another episode. I am, of course, a marketer, thought leader, digital strategist, and coach for small businesses, and just basically I love small business, and I have one goal for you when you listen to this podcast or however else you interact with me in the world, and that is to help you make marketing a priority, because I know if you want to grow your business, then you simply need to learn to market yourself. It's that simple. It's not easy, but it's definitely that simple. Today's podcast is actually sponsored by Airtree Resort. For those of you following along at home, Airtree Resort was the destination of my Women in Business retreat a few months back. So I'm a little bit excited to be now highlighting them as a sponsor for this podcast. Because seriously, who doesn't want a holiday? We all need a break away, and Airtree Resort has all you need from spacious cozy rooms to a driving range, or a golf driving range I should say, lots of farm animals, a kids adventure playground that your children would die for, a fire pit for drinking mulled wine and enjoying the flames, and of course it's all located around where I am on the beautiful Murray River in the Yarrawonga. So come and spoil yourself and give yourself a breakaway at Airtree. Get in touch with Jules and Scratcher at all the W's, airtreeresort.com.au, and tell them Jen sent ya. So Airtree, of course, is spelled AIRTREE, and then the word resort. So Airtree Resort. And Airtree Resort, I'm sure Jules won't mind me telling you, is actually made up from their two children's names. So that's where Airtree gets its name from. But you can find all the fun things to do, of course, at Airtree Resort. Check out their website, or of course, they're on Instagram and Facebook, and you can follow along and see the amazing resort there as well. Today on the podcast, we are actually talking about getting seen in the busy, overcrowded, and really noisy marketplace that we are all trying to work and sell and conduct our businesses in. In fact, we are talking visibility with visibility specialist Jemima Ashley, who just so happens to have a business called the Visibility Lab. How awesome is that? Full disclosure though, before we start, I'm actually a client of Jemima's, and she's been helping me get more visibility in 2021, more speaking opportunities, more podcast interviews, more spots for my blogs, TV interviews, magazine interviews. She has just been a absolute drum at doing this for me, and I really just wanted to highlight with you what this can do for your business. You know, this isn't a magic stick, most certainly, but it is magic, and I really wanted to share this with you, because getting your business or you into the media for free seems daunting, but I promise you it's not. And I would love you to listen to our conversation with Jemima and learn a little bit more about what it could look like for your business. There is so much gold in this episode, and I can't wait for you to listen in. So go and grab a pen and paper, because you might just need it, and listen to Jemima's wisdom on getting visible in your marketplace, and of course how this can shape your business. Jem, I'm a little bit excited to have you on my podcast, and I must say you are my first return guest, so super welcome back to the podcast.
Stop it, Jan. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me again. Obviously, I did something right on the first time.
Yeah, that's right. I think it was episode 5, but we won't talk about that.
I've just the longest standing guest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. True testament to some of the things we're going to talk about today. But Jem,
Mm.
for my audience who perhaps don't know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Jemima Ashley. I'm an entrepreneur. I have a couple of different businesses. I'm a founder of the Visibility Lab, which I think is what we're mostly going to be talking about today.
Indeed.
I'm the author of the best-selling book Position Me. I have taken out a couple of fairly decent awards, including I've been named one of the top 10 entrepreneurs in Australia. There's a few other things that I've done in there, but I'm a speaker and a podcaster as well. And one of my favorite things is I get to call you one of my friends as well.
Yeah. Oh, how delightful. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite things as well. But you mentioned in there the Visibility Lab. Now, I want to chat to you about that. Can you tell us a little bit? We'll dig deeper for sure, but tell us what the Visibility Lab, what's it about? What's its ethos?
Yeah, this is my baby. Like this is everything that I've learned the last 5 years. So, a couple of years ago, I read this statistic that absolutely blew my mind, and it is 97% of small business owners uh, fail in the first 5 years, and those stats aren't great, and that's for female-led businesses. So, for male-led businesses, they're like half the rate. So women are failing at twice the rate of their male counterparts, which I don't know about you, but like legitimately, that's unacceptable to me. So I started digging around in this, right? I started kind of looking about what this all meant. And the big thing that came through again and again is women were getting their businesses right. They were getting things correct. They were getting things done the right time in the right order. But we just had all this invisible tasking that we didn't know how to get rid of. Like we had childcare and to pick up the kids and to then go and buy the groceries. And if someone needs to take the dog to the vet, it was always women. But when we were having the time and we were having those successes, we weren't staking our claim of how good we were publicly. We were taking these awards, grabbing them, being like, thank you so much for the kudos, and shoving it into the back cupboard. We were never owning our successes. We were never being visible for the cool things that we were doing.
Yeah. So you set out to change that.
I was done. So I was like, well, how do we make it authentic too? Because there's no point being like, tell everyone how great you are. So this idea about what if we helped people in a step-by-step place where there's a little bit of hand holding, a bit of love, a bit of tough love is needed, and being like, tell me what you're good at. Let's start telling other people. Let's start getting you around new clients. Let's get you seen in networking events. Let's get you seen in media. Let's get you seen on stages and walk people through this process. And it became, this plan of like how we take a person who's good at what they do, but no one knows who they are, onto sort of a mega stage, and a global phenomenon is kind of what we're trying to build with people. And what I realized later, this is exactly what I went through when I was learning from being this tiny entrepreneur who had 0 followers to suddenly within a couple of years winning awards. This is exactly what I did to get me to where I am. And I figured I could make it very repeatable for other women.
Yeah, I think that, a few things that you touched on there, we don't tend to sing our praises. And I know, my whole business model is based around trying to make people make marketing a priority, because we are really good at what we do. Not enough people know about how good we are at what we do, at problem solving or delighting our customers and things like that. So I think that's just so important. And I know myself when, last year I had the great honor of winning in a couple of awards, and it felt icky to put it out there on social media to go, do you know how good I am? Let me tell you in these next 12 posts, it was really icky. So I totally get where people come from, but I think it's something that we need to certainly embrace some more. And that's, I guess why I got you on the podcast, is to have a bit of a chat about how we can, what can we do to make ourselves more visible? What does that look like? What are the tiny steps and what are the big steps that we can take?
Yeah, 100%. And this is why we broke it down in the way that we did, and to make sure that we were getting people comfortable to this process. There's no way if someone came to me in my first 12 months of being an entrepreneur and was like, hey, just so you know, you're going to do a keynote. It's going to be in LA. You're going to go to Los Angeles. They're going to fly you out there. They're going to give you money for this. You're going to be on stage for over an hour and answer questions at the end of it and do a fireside chat. I was like, if you had told me that, I would have died. Like, I'd be like, I'm out. I'm fetal. I can't do this. I'm not doing it. I quit. It's too far and it's too big. And I think this is the problem that we find with a lot of like traditional PR agencies and people who are trying to go through this kind of traditional route of like first this, then this, and trying to wedge themselves into a model that doesn't work for them, is because we have to meet people where they are. So, at year 2, when I was starting to do keynotes, and at year 3, when I was like, I would like to do an international one now, this is now more, it's easier to swallow, right?
Yep.
It's a little bit easier and just a little bit more of a stretch. So that's why we designed the Visibility Lab. We were like, let's make sure people can go where they want to be and where they are, so they are comfortable. Yes, it's going to feel like a stretch to post how great you are when you win an award, but how do we do it in a way that feels authentic to you and that doesn't make you feel icky?
Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So how do we do it? What are some steps that you can share with us around how we can start telling people, what we do and how good we are at solving people's problems?
Great. Well, you've nailed it. Number 1 is build a really clear personal brand and get very, very clear on what problem that you solve. This is the number 1 thing, and I liken it to building a house, right? Is so many business owners, and particularly women, because we're trying to expedite this process. We have other priorities. We have kids, and we have the husband, and we have the laundry that needs to be done, and we're doing all this other stuff. So we often skip the foundation, right? And if you can get this bit right, you change your business. We need you to lay the concrete before you try to put the wall up. So the question is, what problem do you solve, and who do you solve that problem for? That takes into what you do, why you're great at doing it, and who your ideal client is. And if you can get those correct and start to are you talking to women? Are you talking to men? That then tells us where we need to make you visible.
Yeah. And I think for any of the listeners, they'll be kind of rolling their eyes and go, oh, I've heard Jen say this so many times. Who is your who and what do you want to be famous for? These are the foundations of marketing. So clearly they are the foundations of getting visible as well, which is...
they're the foundations of business. If you want to earn money, there's no point you saying like, you've got this, you could have the world's greatest product, but if no one knows about it, it's game over.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. All right. So we know who our who is. We know what we want to be famous for. What do we do now?
So the next really important step, and this one, again, just foundational, you have to be around good people. And you have to build a very high level network around you. Do not underestimate the power of the rooms that you were in and the people that you were meeting. So I'm going to throw back to Jim Rohn, who is like famously known as the father of personal development. He's like the guy that coached Tony Robbins, for those who haven't heard of him. Jim Rohn famously said, you are the sum of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. And it is impactually, like, life-alteringly true. There was a study done at Stanford University where they took 5 people who were very wealthy, very, very intelligent, really, really good at their jobs and were thriving in their life. And they took 5 people who were earning less than minimum wage, and they sort of took these 2 kind of average Joe people, right? This is where this amazing kind of research comes from. They took this kind of average Joe. So Jen and I I go over to hang out with these 5 people who are earning less than minimum wage, and Jen goes over to the 5 people who are earning a lot of money. And they monitored us for a year. So this is a blind study. So Jen and I had no idea what we were researching. Did I lose you, Jen?
No, you're still there. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, cool. Sorry, my computer just glitched for a second. I'm not sure what happened. Sorry. Okay. So it's a blind study. So Jen and I have no idea what they're looking at. And for 12 months, we are watched. And at the end of the 12 months, what was so interesting is they found that Jen, who's spending time with people in, higher socioeconomic brackets, who are more connected, who are earning more money, who are more educated, and Jen's thriving. Like, she's now earning like 17% more. She has stocks, she has investment, she's lost weight, she's eating healthier food. Me, in contrast to that, unfortunately, is now put on kilos. My relationship is in a worse way. I have lost money in my bank account. I am earning the same wage that I was 12 months ago. So there is this huge study, behavior backed, about you have to be in the right rooms and be around good people. And I know that that's really easy to say, in the COVID world that we're all in now, and that we're constantly like jumping online and jumping into meetings. But there are so many ways to have good influences around you without you realizing. The biggest trick that I can give you for this is pull out your mobile phone, whatever device you're looking at, listening to this on, and have a look at the people, the last 10 people that you have been engaging with. Check your messages, check Messenger, check WhatsApp. Are these people helping you get to where you want to be, or are they a distraction? Is the first question you need to be answering. And the second one is, how can you, if they aren't kind of fanning your flames and making you a better person and who you want to be and who that person is, and very important here around knowing what problem you solve and having that really clear personal brand, you have to start reviewing that and start changing that if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't like agree more. You are the product of the 5 people you hang around the most. You
Yeah.
just need to watch the TV to see that. You can
Yeah.
see it all the time. Good, the bad, the ugly, the wonderful, the amazing. People, tend to emulate people. I've got a friend of mine, not a close friend, but a good friend that I hang out with, and she has a very unique voice. And I know that if I go and spend a day with her, I'll come home and my husband's like, "You're talking like her." I don't mean to, but I've hung around her and I'm emulating the way she speaks. It's something inside my brain. It's like when we went to America, I started with an American accent. I don't know why I did it, but I was hanging around those people and that's why I did it. So, it is very subconscious. And so, we're not talking friends and family, we're talking influential people in your business. And this is, that can help you get to where you want to go to. Certainly, what do they say? Don't have entrepreneurial discussions with non-entrepreneurs. That's never going to help your business.
Not at all. Not at all. And it's really, really important when we're talking about this stuff to recognize that, you do need to have friends who don't talk about business. Like, I'm not saying cast all of your friends away, but if they're having negative conversations with you about like, maybe business isn't a good idea, I mean, listen to it, but never ever take advice from someone, or like free commentary from someone that you wouldn't go to advice from.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important to understand that. Also recognize if you aren't around those people at the moment, like if you are listening to this and this is maybe the most positive thing that you're going to hear today, is that they don't have to be in-person influencers. The greatest influence in my entire business for the first 12 months was Gary Vaynerchuk. And it took me probably 2 years to meet him. I've met him now. Great dude. Had many conversations with him, love him as a human and as also like as the business entrepreneur that he is and the things that he's done. But he was probably my greatest leader for a long time.
Yeah.
And I'd never hadn't actually laid eyes on him before. So there are ways of, technology is making it a little bit easier, but
certainly Facebook groups are good. Like if you can find a good Facebook group to hang out in. If you aren't in a good Facebook group, then just, you don't have to stay there. Unjoin and move on. But there are some really great Facebook groups there from people who will lift you up, people who will challenge you in a good way, and people who will celebrate with you. And that's exactly what you want. And the other thing that I found this year for me that has brought me some really good connections is Clubhouse.
Yeah.
Being active on Clubhouse. It's all online, but it's kind of networking and you get to meet some new and interesting people. And I still have people, once a week sort of reaching out saying, "Oh, do you want to have a chat? I reckon we could align ourselves together." And vice versa as well. So there are some ways of doing it despite the fact that perhaps your networking event that would normally be running isn't running at the moment.
Yeah. And remember, this is about visibility too. So going to networking events, going to ones online, going to Clubhouse, going onto these Facebook groups, all of these places are going to see your name.
Mm-hmm.
If we're
Have
talking
a
about
good bio.
visibility, I have an amazing bio. We're going into that, I promise. But this is around, and being very, very clear on that personal brand. Don't be wishy-washy about it. Tell people what you do. Tell them what you're good at. Tell them what problem you solve. Have good people around you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So, Jem, full disclosure to any of my audience listening, I do work with Jemima. Jemima does help me with my visibility. And one of the biggest things that you've helped me with is media and PR. So can we talk a little bit about, people think that getting into the media and getting free PR for their business is like only for the God-given gold people, but the realistic thing is that it's not. So can we have a bit of a chat about how people can perhaps get themselves in the media for free?
Yeah, this is probably the biggest one that I constantly run into, and people are like, "So you guys are in a PR firm?" I'm like, no, we don't do that. We're going to help you get into them. because people think when they hear PR that like you just go into TV and you make $1 million. And that's simply just not how it goes. I would love that to be the case because I'd be a multi-millionaire at this point if that was the case. I'm in TV so many times. But this is the thing. People think it's really challenging and difficult to do that. It's really not. We're on a 24-hour media cycle around the world right now. Do you want to do an interview in LA? Because they're screening for people today. Do you want to do a live broadcast into Hong Kong? Because I can get you that too. And this is where, again, having a clear personal brand and knowing what problem you solve, when people are looking for that, people need to know how to find you. It's so simple to me to just be like, this is not difficult to do. You just have to be out there so people are able to see you. So let's talk about what that can look like. So most people think, oh, it's straight away, I'm going to get a live TV interview. That is not necessarily how that works. It has worked like that before, but historically, no. So that can be things like going on a podcast and being featured as the person being interviewed, being seen on TV, print media, things like magazines, blogs, blogging for someone else. All of these things is media exposure. So podcasts can be anything from as Jen, as you know, this is something I'm like really just like, will literally be on my headstone because I say this enough. Where people get confused on this one is that they don't know how to approach podcasts, or they don't know how to get in on them, or like how many listeners do they have. When you're starting out, none of that stuff matters. Everyone starts with 0 followers, right? Everyone. Gary Vee, you, me, Tony Robbins, Marie Folio, all of these people started with one person, no people having any idea who they are. So this is why podcasts and television and media interviews are really, really important, because you might only have 10 people listening, but those 10 people could be your ideal client. Or one person can reach out to you and then they offer you to do another interview because then it's slightly more in your wheelhouse. And then suddenly like, oh, another podcast sees you and they're like, oh, that's really interesting. Would you like to do a blog for me? Hey, I was just thinking. And then you start to see, and on average, each podcast gets about 45 listeners. It's not great statistics, guys. And it's certainly, you have to have more. That's globally. So that's quite stretched, with most podcasts only releasing 7 episodes. So, because they don't realize how much work it is, right, Jen, as you would know. So there are really easy ways to get onto there. First is just by asking.
Wow, revolutionary.
What a concept.
Yeah.
I really like your podcast. I really like that you talk about marketing. I do marketing. Here's what problem I solve. Do you think your listeners would be interested in that? And the answer will always be, yeah, please. That would be great. Because people who have podcasts often find themselves in need of like fresh, interesting material. They also know that if, Jen, as you would know, and let's use you and I as an example here, you know that you invited me to come on here today. I'm going to talk to your people about visibility. In very real terms, when this podcast goes live, I am going to share it. And that is 2,000 to 3,000 people that you may not have been exposed to before getting eyes on your podcast. Some of those people, maybe only 10%, but that's still 200 people are going to go and listen to a podcast that would never have engaged with you before.
Yeah.
Visibility,
absolutely.
101.
Yeah. Visibility, absolutely. And like people get a little bit, just like on social media, they get a bit hung up on how many followers someone has versus them and that sort of thing. And people get a little bit hung up on listeners as well for podcasts. But Lyndall Harris, who is the podcast VA, who's a gorgeous girl that I absolutely love, she said to this really great profound thing, I thought it was, very early on in my journey. And it was kind of like, I think I had about 100 listeners per episode back when I heard this. And she's like, yeah, but if you got to stand in front of 100 people every single week and talk to them, wouldn't you think that was great? And I'm like, oh my God, yes, I would. If I could put 100 people in a room every single week to hear my knowledge and, interview my guests, I would think that was amazing. So, you might think that 45 isn't a great number, but that could be 45 people that have never heard of you before that now all of a sudden are following you on social media. So,
yeah, your product is $1,000 a month and all of those 45 people need that.
Yep. Great.
That's a lot more money than most people are making collectively. So like this is the thing, right? It doesn't matter. Like it's about
Mm.
depth, not width.
Yeah, yeah. And just with the whole PR thing, I remember talking to someone a little while ago about, how easy or not, it's not super easy to get into PR, but it's not as hard as what we think. And I kind of, bring it back to small business owners going, so one of my clients' biggest problems is content creation. I'm like, yeah, but that's for your business. So imagine running a 24-hour news cycle and then start to think how much content they need and how much help they need with their content. And then most people go, oh my God, yeah, I can barely think of 3 things to post a
Yeah.
week, never alone trying to fill a 24-hour news cycle. Okay, that makes it seem a little bit more doable and a little bit simpler to get on. So,
Yeah. And you come strolling in and being like sending an email and be like, hey, hi, my name's Jen and I'm here. Well, you want to talk about social media trends in 2021? Yes, we do, Jen. Please come on in. And this is the thing is with that people need to sort of that I'd love your listeners to understand is that it's not difficult to do these things. The challenge is just starting and learning that process very quickly and
yeah,
knowing that it's not as hard as it seems. This
yeah.
is what we teach you at the Visibility Lab. It's so easy.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. And the other thing, Jemima, that you are pushing me on outside my comfort zone, and I will fully admit that it's outside my comfort zone, is awards. So it's an awards season at the moment. It's the
It
season to
is.
be applying for awards, which, if you want visibility for your business, this is probably one of the biggest ways that you can do it and have repurposeful content for a very long time. So
Mm.
tell us a little bit about the importance of applying for awards and thinking of it perhaps more as a marketing strategy than a guess how good I am strategy.
This is honestly, and I think this is how you and I kind of like chatted. I think you were like, I'm interested to hear what you're saying about awards. Like you're talking about this as a
Yeah.
marketing strategy. I'm like, it is a marketing strategy. So let me talk about one specific award and then tell you that there's 300 like these happening every week, every year, sorry, every week. My goodness, how busy would I? Oh, goodness. So a few years ago, I went to 11 award ceremonies in one year where I was either a finalist or a winner.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Do you know how many people I got to talk to? How many times I got to take the stage and grab a microphone and be like, thank you so much. Find us at thevisibilitylab.co. Thanks. Or find me at jemimaashley.com. Like I got to say these things on repeat. My name got seen everywhere. So the Australian Small Business Champion Awards, let's use these as the example. They're kind of the biggest awards in Australia. They title themselves as the Oscars of small business, which I adore the name of, let's be honest. And they're held in Sydney every year. And the questions are every year pretty much exactly the same. This year, I think they asked a little question about COVID, like, were you a COVID safe business? Yes. That was about it, right? That was the only changes. So I largely used last year's application to apply to apply again, and I'm a finalist again because I know the questions they're going to ask. I do some tweaks, but I don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore because I do one application and then I cut and paste it for the rest of the year into other applications that I'm suitable for. And here's the thing, because I'm entering like female-led business awards, entrepreneur awards, and I do visibility, every single person in the room needs my help.
Yeah.
The Australian Small Business Champion Awards have 1,100 guests that attend every year. They have over 215 media outlets sitting in the back of the room watching what's happening and filming, and they're writing down the names of winners and finalists and researching and Googling people on demand. The people that you sit at the table with, talking about building your high-level network, all of those things, they're also winners and finalists on the same table as you. They also have small businesses. They're connected with 700 other people, and there's 10 people at that table. These are kind of the premier ways. If you want maximum visibility very, very quickly, it's an easy way to do that. Also, you all get guides, all your names in there, and generally a photo as well. So you get to be seen by your peers, judged by your peers, the psychology, and I know that we're not doing video, but my right shoulder, if we were doing video, is a psychology degree. The psychology tells us that if you're a finalist or a winner, the psychology is the same. We kind of rank she was a finalist or she was a winner. We actually, we don't mind as long as they were kind of one of the two of how good they are. And we get to go to these awards, wear a fancy dress, drink champagne, and meet cool people, have media putting their eyes on that. I get to wear a really nice dress, and I get to have other people looking at me, looking at my business, getting massive exposure very, very quickly as a tool every week. And that's if I don't win. If I do win, the game changes again completely.
Yeah, it's an next
Media is
elevation.
calling, TV is calling, people want to interview you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Well, firstly, congratulations on being a finalist. I'm, very happy for you. And Spend With Us is also a finalist in those awards. So I'm super excited. So we might actually, have to have a drink of champagne together in Sydney.
If we don't get a photo of you and I together, like next to the statue with a glass of champagne in sparkly dresses, I'm not going.
Okay. All right. There you go. There you go. So, awards are really great, and I think they're a really great marketing strategy. They're fantastic for visibility, but these awards are also a business for somebody. So awards do vary in whether or not you get to enter for free, whether you whether you have to pay per category, whether you have to pay per awards. So how do you decide? People's marketing budget, if we're going to call it a marketing exercise, it comes out of a marketing budget. So how do you decide which ones to invest in that will get you the biggest return?
That is a great question, and is an absolute bugbear of mine on a regular basis. Occasionally I even get emails, and I'm not saying that people don't have the right to charge for things. I am a huge advocate for charging what you're worth. I have an issue if you're asking me to apply and to also put a fee attached to it, because if I'm a finalist or a winner, I'm going to buy a ticket. I'm going to invest my time and energy and effort into doing this. I shouldn't be being charged for that, for that as well. It's the same thing when it comes down to people charging you to go on their podcasts.
Yes.
If it's a marketing tool, great. Like if you're paying your way to being on the front, you look at someone who, there's a lot of people who will tell you how great they are because they've been on the cover of Forbes magazine. That's fantastic. Give me $500,000 and I can get you on the front cover of Forbes magazine as well. I could get a snail on the cover for $1 million, right? Like this isn't difficult to do if the money is there. If it's a token amount like $50, I have some questions about that. If it's you're going to get in front of your ideal client and it's $200, maybe it's can be considered marketing. I don't agree with paying fees for applications. I'm pretty adamant on that because I just haven't seen a good ROI. Having said that, prove me wrong. If you find one out there, I'm totally willing to change my stance on this. I just haven't seen one of being like, oh, this is the best industry award in the world. This is when you have to be in it. And the reason that you're being charged $200 because you're guaranteed to have X, Y, and Z. Great. I would be happy to do it. I just would say as soon as there is a fee involved at the moment, it's a no from me. Do understand that businesses are an award. So there are 1,100 people that will go into the room, the Australian Small Business Champion Awards, and each person will pay between, I think it's $400 a ticket. It's a lot of money, and I've eaten that meal a few times and had their wine, and I know wine. I'm not drinking or eating $400 worth of stuff. Yeah. I'm in the room. I'm paying to be in that room.
Yeah.
So I went to 11 awards in 1 year, and I did that intentionally. Anytime I was a finalist, I went to them to see what would happen and to see if it was a good ROI. Some of them were definitely a good investment. Australian Small Business Champion was a great investment. I reuse those photos on a regular basis. My social media are constantly being shared with that. I got to meet some really great people. It also was an investment of a fun night to go to Sydney. Yeah. So yeah, it was still an amazing opportunity to do that. I didn't go last year during COVID. I was a finalist again. I didn't go because it was just, I wasn't sure about borders and I wasn't willing to throw potentially $1,000 at something and not being able to do it. But there are also other awards that I've applied for where I applied for everything that were tiny awards who had 30 or 40 people. Here's the problem with some of the smaller awards. You want to make sure that the people running them aren't the judges.
Okay.
And I say this for a reason. So I'm not going to use real names here, but this is extremely common. And it's one thing I do like flagging with people is that if awards are being overseen by let's say a networking event, like a networking group, you have the right to enter those awards whether you're a member or not. but I can almost guarantee you that no non-member is going to win.
Okay.
They can't really reward business owners who aren't part of that. Specifically. So you'll often find if there's no oversight to it, it becomes very subjective in how they're doing it. It's part of the problem with regional, very small town kind of awards. So you want to make sure there's sort of some separation of awards, and just be mindful of it. Just be mindful when you're applying for the awards, like have a look at the previous winners. Who's been involved in this? Who presents at these things? How much is the ticket versus how much ROI do you think you're going to get from it? If it's the local if it's your local Shire awards, absolutely, you're only going to talk to people in the same room who are in your local area. And if you're a brick and mortar business, that's exactly who you want to be talking to.
Yep.
For someone like me, probably not helpful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Knowing your why and knowing who your ideal client is, very important for all of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. But love supporting your own awards, because if people don't go into them, then they will phase out, which means that no one will get the opportunity to have that visibility. So where you can support your own local awards, I would highly, highly encourage that. So Jen, we've talked about a lot and you've given lots of amazing tips around visibility. Anything we've missed?
The only other thing that I would touch on is that you really have to be very, very clear about all of this stuff, and be willing to share it on social media. This is the paramount part, that you have to make sure that when you are doing this stuff, when you know what problem you solve, when you are being seen in media and going on podcasts and stuff, you have to then share that. You have to be willing to sort of say in an authentic voice for you, I'm so honored that I got to go on Jen's podcast today. I'm so excited that I got to be part of this amazing blog post. I'm so excited that I get to be part of this television experience, like these things. And then telling other people, you have to just you're never going to feel ready. Firstly, you're never going to be like, yeah, I'm so ready to do it today. You're never going to feel like that ever. The trick is doing it anyway.
Yeah. The trick is doing it anyway. And realizing the sky didn't fall, world didn't end. And, a few people have got your back now, cheering you on, which perhaps you didn't know they were there cheering you on in the first place. So, absolutely.
Yeah. And you may not just be mindful. Like there are things that you'll post that you don't get any likes, and more to life than likes, don't get me wrong. But, every time that you're posting something, you're like, no one engaged with it. It doesn't matter. You're educating your audience. That network around you of learning about what you do, that pivot that you're making and these changes that you're making are all positive. And if it's in the direction that you want to be going, all the better. So don't get disheartened if you post like a podcast and no one cares about it. A lot more people saw it than you think did.
Yeah. Look at your insights. That'll give you a much better indication than likes, for sure.
100%.
Jemima, this has been so good. I'm so glad that you agreed to come on the podcast for the second time. Anyone who's interested can go all the way back to episode 5 and listen to our very first chat, which I believe was done in about 43-degree heat.
I remember this now. It was horrendous heat.
It was.
Like, you were just dying. I remember because I was living in a double-story house at that point. Yeah. I was like, is it? So I died. I'm going to die talking to Jen, and I had to turn the aircon off because it was too noisy.
Yeah. So if you would like to follow up that, whereas we're doing a winter one now, we learned our lesson. So all very good. Jemima, how can people get in contact with you if they're interested in learning a little bit more about what you do, what you offer, and of course the Visibility Lab?
Well, I think they can go and harass you firstly, because you can just direct them to me. But you can find me over at thevisibilitylab.co or jemimaashley.com, and all of the normal social media stuff. I'm around. I'm very around. I'm very visible.
Which is just as well having the name of the business that you have.
Thank goodness, right?
Yeah. It's like a marketer who doesn't market, but that's a discussion for another day. All right. Thank you so much for coming on and for sharing all that wisdom with my audience.
Thanks, Jen. I really appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Hopefully see you all soon.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode and my chat with Jemima. She's amazing at what she does, and I would highly recommend that you put getting seen in the media into your marketing strategy for the back end of 2021. It really should become part of your goal. Even if you just got onto one podcast or one extra podcast or got one radio interview or something like that. Like, it just helps with your branding, your expertise, and of course, your visibility. Even if it just means signing up for a couple of emails. So there's a couple of businesses that do this through email as well, which you can do for free. Of course, Jemima, you can always contact Jemima in the Visibility Lab. Her links to her website and Instagram and that, of course, all in the show notes. But otherwise, there's businesses like Source Bottle and the Audacious Agency. So you can sign up, get their emails, and just start having a look of what people are looking for. I think that would be a really good start if you're a little bit tentative. The links to Source Bottle and the Audacious Agency and, of course, Jemima are all in the show notes. And the show notes are at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/129. But that is it for episode 129. I will be back next Thursday for episode 130, and I really look forward to chatting with you there again. I hope you have a fabulous week, whoever or whatever it brings, and don't forget to get social with me on social. You will, of course, find me on all the platforms. But if you'd like to come into my Facebook group, just a little bit deeper into my world, you are more than welcome to come and join the Like-Minded Business Owners group. It's a fabulous little Facebook group where there's lots of interaction, lots of chats, and lots of support for all small business owners in there. Of course, if you're enjoying the podcast and you've listened this far, so hopefully you are, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And of course, if you have time, leave a rating and a review for this podcast in your listening app, because those things not only mean the world to me, but also help with my visibility. Ha! I snuck that one in there. It all helps with visibility in getting new listeners, and then of course getting more word out there on how small business owners can make marketing a priority in their business. But anyway, that's it. See you next week. But whatever you do, my small business peeps, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.